It started with the smell. You know, that kind of sour, damp rot that seeps out of old basements or forgotten closets, only this was worse. It clung to the air, thick and acidic, like something spoiled in secret. Hannah Green had just signed the lease for the apartment in Brooklyn 2 weeks earlier. A rent-controlled 2-bedroom in Park Slope. It sounded like a once-in-a-lifetime miracle. She'd snatched it up within a day of seeing the listing. The place was outdated but charming. Creaky hardwood floors, built-in shelves, a battered clawfoot tub that looked haunted and picturesque at the same time. But the smell, it wasn't there during the first walkthrough. At first, she blamed the building's age. Maybe it was mildew in the walls, or a dead mouse in the vent. City living wasn't glamorous. She wasn't new to that. Hannah was 32, worked from home as a graphic designer, and was used to rolling with the grunge of old apartments. But this was different. Then came the noises. At night, faint scratching behind the walls. Not every night, but most. Always near the laundry nook in the corner of the kitchen where the previous tenants had jammed a washer-dryer combo unit between 2 warped counters. She assumed rats. She tried to ignore it. She wore earbuds. But last Thursday, while on a Zoom call, the sound happened again, except this time, it didn't sound like scratching. It sounded like breathing. Heavy, wet, deliberate, slow inhales, slow exhales. Not rapid like a rodent, not squeaky or frantic. Just steady, patient, human. Hannah froze, eyes wide, pretending to still follow the meeting as her heart pounded in her ears. When the call ended, she stood, crept toward the nook, and listened. Silence. She felt ridiculous. Her therapist had warned her about catastrophizing. She had a habit of spiraling. But that night, when she tried to sleep, she heard it again. Breathing, followed by a tap tap tap. She got up at 2:47 a.m. and recorded it with her phone. Playback was inconclusive. She posted it on Reddit's r/paranormal. A few upvotes, nothing solid. People suggested raccoons, old pipes, even audio hallucinations. She gave up. She just wanted to sleep. But then came the dryer. One morning, a week later, it stopped working altogether. No light, no spin, no heat. She checked the plug. Nothing unusual. So she decided to pull it out to check behind it. It took effort. The unit was heavier than she expected. She scooted it inch by inch, bracing her foot against the wall, sweating, swearing, until finally, it groaned out far enough for her to slip behind. What she saw made her recoil. Behind the dryer wasn't just the normal clutter of lint and lost socks. There was a metal door. Not a panel. A solid, rectangular metal door set into the wall. Painted the same color as the wall, with hinges caked in old rust, almost invisible unless you knew to look. There was no handle, just a small indented circle near the top. Her heart kicked into high gear. She texted her super. No answer. She called the landlord. Voicemail. So she got a screwdriver. The metal was thin enough around the circle to wedge the flathead in and twist. It took 5 full minutes before the metal creaked, groaned, and popped open with a slow hiss of stale air. A thick smell of earth and rot spilled out. Hannah gagged, covering her nose. A tunnel stretched ahead, concrete walls, about 5 feet wide, barely tall enough for someone to walk upright. She grabbed her flashlight and stood at the edge. The beam disappeared into the dark like it was being swallowed. There was something unnatural about it. Cold, wrong, still. She should have stopped. She knew that, but she stepped in. The floor was gritty under her sneakers. The air smelled metallic. She walked slowly, keeping the beam ahead of her, touching the wall with her free hand to orient herself. The tunnel sloped slightly downward. She passed old, rotted crates, dusty wires, a rusted-out tricycle. Then she saw the photos. They were taped to the wall. Rows and rows of Polaroids. Most yellowed with age, curling at the corners. Some newer. All of them showed people. Some were sleeping. Some were eating. Some were in the bathroom. But the angle of every photo was the same, shot through a narrow slit or peephole. Taken from behind a wall or vent. Always from a hidden view. Her stomach flipped. She stepped closer. There were dozens. Hundreds. Each labeled with a number and date. Apartment 2B, 2019. Apartment 2B, 2015. Apartment 2A, 2020. Then she found hers. Apartment 2C, 2024. 3 photos. One of her at her laptop. One of her brushing her teeth. One of her sleeping. She fell back, gasping, bile in her throat. This wasn't just rats. This wasn't vermin or old wiring. Someone had been watching her. For how long? Since she moved in. She turned and ran. But as she did, The flashlight flickered, then died. Total darkness. She fumbled for her phone. Dead. Not low battery. Dead. No power. No restart screen. Just black. She screamed. Echoes bounced off the walls, making it sound like the tunnel screamed back. She felt her way along the wall, heart hammering. Her hand brushed something cold. A metal grate. She leaned close and listened. Breathing. Right on the other side. Then a voice whispered from behind it, "You weren't supposed to find this." She sprinted, hands scraping along the wall, stumbling through the dark. After what felt like forever, the faint outline of the metal door appeared behind her. She shoved it open and fell back into her kitchen, gasping, sobbing, skin crawling. The door slammed shut behind her. She pushed the dryer back in place and called 911. When the cops arrived, she told them everything. They searched, but when they moved the dryer, the door was gone. Just solid wall, no seams, no marks, like it had never existed. They looked at her like she was losing it. No tunnel, no photos, no proof. She was told to take a break from work. Maybe stay with family. She did. She went to her sister's in New Jersey, too shaken to argue. But a week later, back in Brooklyn, her landlord put her unit up for rent again. Rent controlled, 2-bedroom, recently vacated. Hannah tried to warn people. Posted on forums. Made videos. No one believed her, until a message showed up in her inbox last week. From a girl named Alina who had just moved into 2C. It said, "Hi, did you live here before? There's something breathing in the wall behind the dryer. I think it's watching me." And attached was a photo. Hannah sleeping, taken from behind a vent. In her old bedroom. It was dated 2 days before she moved out. And below the photo, a single caption, scribbled in red ink. "Don't leave. We like you."